Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you guys are feeling great out there this morning and having a great start to your day. Great start to your weekend, whenever it is that you're watching this video. Regardless, I got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today. We're going to try to figure out today because really today is going to be a pretty active day. You got a blizzard that's going to be unfolding really later this afternoon into this evening across areas of the Dakotas. And you got, snow beginning to move across Pennsylvania this morning, areas of New York State. Certain areas like the Poconos, Pennsylvania will certainly see several inches of snow. Somebody might squeeze in an 8 to 12 inch total. We just got multiple things to talk about. And then, of course, in the second half of the video, we're going to give you some updated information on what's going on with this nor'easter potential as we're getting into the end of this weekend into early next week. This could be like a 2 to 3 day event for a lot of folks. So we need to figure it out because this could definitely be one of the biggest storms of the year so far, especially and mainly for New England, the Northeast. But we certainly need to talk about everything, all the factors, and what we do know. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It goes a long way. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. We can all look out for one another here. We got a great family atmosphere and glorify God doing it. So let's get rolling this morning. Water vapor loop. You see this swirl right here? We talked about it last night. It has inched a little bit further east. It has now entered the Pacific Northwest out here. So this is now the player. It's now entering land, and it can be fully sampled now, meaning that we can get a lot of information from this. And I really think we'll have some model movement today because the GFS and the European are still kind of different as far as not necessarily where the axis of heaviest snow is going to be for the storm next week, but who all can see it is really a big factor here. But what we do know and have high confidence in is what's going to happen in the Dakotas, the north central U.S., maybe the Midwest and Ohio Valley. But we're going to figure it all out for you folks. Our system's moving into the Northeast this morning. It's not going to get very far northeast, but it is going to affect areas of the Northeast. So let's get rolling and go to the next panel here. Watches, warnings, advisories, those that basically that red that you see right here, that is blizzard warnings. The teal color, that is winter storm watches. So here in the next, maybe few hours, several hours as we get into this evening, some of these areas might get upgraded to a winter storm warning or just an advisory. You still got lingering winter storm warnings up for areas of southeast Minnesota, a few counties in Iowa, and then in areas of western Wisconsin, even eastern Wisconsin along the shores of Lake Michigan, the western shores of Lake Michigan. But winter weather advisories everywhere else where it's still snowing. I mean, it's still snowing all the way back here in Wisconsin. But this will taper off very quickly later this morning, and then it will become more of a bigger event. It already kind of is right now for the Northeast. And like I said, you got some winter storm warnings up for the Poconos where you can get one of your biggest snows of the winter so far. So it's pretty crazy to think about here on March 10th. Storm Prediction Center, there is a marginal risk for severe weather down here in South Georgia and then the panhandle regions of Florida. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but there is a little bit of a damaging wind threat and a hail threat, small hail threat. So not really much of a tornado threat, but you can't totally rule that out as always. I always want to put that in kind of as a disclaimer, if you will. But could see some strong to severe storms today across these regions in the dark green down here. So let's talk about the southeast first. We got some rain falling in a lot of portions of the southeast as you're waking up this morning. This is washing some of that pollen away. I woke up really early this morning. Friday mornings is the morning I wake up there earliest just because I got more stuff to do. And I was outside working out, and I just took the headphones out and just listened to the rainfall. It was really nice, really peaceful. So definitely a steady rain out there for a lot of people. Some areas have a heavier rain. Some areas it's more of a lighter rain. But regardless, a lot of areas seeing it. This will taper off, and really as just some surface temperatures build across the panhandle of Florida, southern Georgia. This is going to provide some fuel for a line of storms that kind of regenerates itself here in central to southern Georgia. We'll see if these kind of make it into far southern sections of South Carolina, but regardless, this could bring another rain into areas of southern South Carolina a little bit later today. But then we get into this afternoon, this evening, and we'll watch this line of storms kind of move north to south into North Florida. Areas like Jacksonville could certainly be a little bit of a rocky Friday evening for you folks. So just be, tuned into the weather if you got any evening activities anywhere here in North Georgia. Jacksonville, some storms can move through. They could be strong, maybe even severe, pack a punch, and then they'll lose their punch as we get into the overnight hours and won't really be a big deal here. So let's move to the northeast, and really we're going to focus on this event moving in right now. We look at radar scope and out of State College, and not really many people reporting anything in Pennsylvania this morning. It'd be awesome to know what's falling here, but this is beginning to really cover up most of the state at this point. As we get into the next hour or two, it will really cover up a lot of the state. But Scranton, the Poconos right in here will definitely be favored in the eastern portion of Pennsylvania. And then another favorite area is up here in the northwest portion of PA, here near Erie, where you guys could get well over a half a foot of snow. Reporting snow in Cleveland this morning. You don't see it on the radar just because we're out of the radar image here. We're in just the State College, not in the Cleveland one. But let me know what you're seeing down here in Maryland. If you're tuning in this morning, Washington, D.C. area, I'd be interested if you're starting out with a little bit of sleet pellets or something, but maybe not. Maybe just some rain. But this will continue to kind of move in this general direction, and then it'll probably cut off somewhere into here. And then it'll kind of the moisture will kind of begin to move back southeast. It's kind of a weird system, but it's kind of a pattern influencing feature to the north. High pressure really shunts this system back southeast instead of continuing to move northeast into areas like New Hampshire, Maine, things like that. But this is what's going on right now. Moisture moving across PA, areas of New York State, southern tier. We'll keep this moving here. We're getting into about midday. You're probably going to have a heavy thumping of snow falling from Erie, areas of Williamsport, I believe, State College. This will be knocking on the door of the Poconos, the Scranton area, things like that. Probably sometime this afternoon. Binghamton probably later this afternoon. Buffalo, it'll be snowing at a good clip as we're getting into the middle of this afternoon. Say afternoon about a million more times here. All rain down here in Philadelphia. Rain moving into Delaware, New Jersey. We're getting into this evening. A solid rain moves into New York City. This will be all rain, at least initially. But look at some of this backside moisture funneling into these higher elevations of West Virginia. This will help out ski country for the last hurrah until they shut down, whenever they shut down, probably in April. I'm not sure. You guys let me know in West Virginia when the ski country up here normally kind of shuts down for the season. But, hey, if you pick this weekend to get in some mid-March skiing fun, snowboarding, it might be a good weekend for it, as some natural snow will be falling out here. It could pick up several inches of snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia and then the higher hills of southern PA and then Maryland. But this continues to move. We're getting into this evening. You begin to mix with snow and then turn into heavy snow here in northern New Jersey. It's snowing pretty hard in northeast PA, snowing pretty good in Binghamton. And this continues. The snow kind of tapers off tonight for Buffalo. And then as we're moving forward, instead of the moisture continuing to kind of move east to northeast, it begins to move back south. And then this is when some cold air can really get featured into this moisture. And then sometime tomorrow morning in central New Jersey, maybe New York City, Long Island, you guys could switch to snow. I mean, even down here in Pennsylvania, you guys could see maybe a little bit of snow to end it tomorrow morning. We'll see what happens for sure. And then maybe some lingering kind of snow showers. Heavier bursts of snow might make it into tomorrow evening for areas of northern New Jersey, southern sections of New York State and New York City regions. We look up here for southern New England, where this has kind of trended to more impactful events. We're getting into later this evening, I would say 10 p.m., and snow making it all the way into the valleys of New York State, southern sections of Vermont, the hills of western Mass and northwest Connecticut. This continues. And listen, I mean, it's going to be a sharp cutoff of moisture, but where moisture is falling could be heavy. So if you got enough cold air in place, snow. But look at the valleys in New York State. You're sticking with all rain in the middle of the night tonight, but it could be all snow. But don't worry, if you want snow in the valleys, this next storm coming might be a big one for you guys. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. This is going to be a really rainy, cold night for Long Island. And you keep this going here. It's struggling here in these lower elevations of Connecticut and Mass, where you kind of have some hills right here, some hills right here, and snowing at a pretty good rate here, potentially in kind of the far northern sections of Rhode Island. You continue, and like I said, eventually it might crash here, and it doesn't quite make it to Boston. And then as we're waking up tomorrow morning, you might switch to a heavy burst of snow in Long Island and even the coastal regions of Connecticut. But what's interesting is as we get into tomorrow around midday, some snow squall activity might kind of get slung back into the eastern shores of Mass. And, you know, if you don't pick up any snow from this in Boston, which you probably won't, you might pick it up tomorrow afternoon as some heavier snow might get kind of, I mean, it's not going to be like a huge shield of snow, just some snow squall activity might get kind of pushed back in from the northeast and move kind of in the south to southeast direction back into these regions. And, you know, you might get it all evening, kind of just some heavier snow burst activity kind of tomorrow evening. And, you know, might last all the way throughout the night. So we'll see what happens there. Snowfall from this event, I mean, it's going for about 8 inches of snow in Erie, just south of Buffalo, going for several inches of snow. Buffalo, 4 to 5 inches. These hilly areas right here in PA, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snow. The Poconos or the National Weather Service, you know, I saw a graphic. It showed, you know, 8. I think Mount Pocono was like 8 to 12 inches of snow. Several inches of snow expected here in the higher terrain, especially once you start to get 3,000 to 4,000 feet up, which isn't a lot of areas, like I said, down here. But, you know, if you're higher up, 3,500 feet up in the air here in West Virginia, you're certainly going to see upwards to 5 to 6 inches of snow. But, you know, some snow is expected here in western Maryland also. And then northern New Jersey. I mean, you folks could get 3 to 4 inches of snow. There's some higher terrain up here in northern New Jersey, and that's certainly possible. But, you know, they're going for, in New York City, maybe as much as of an inch of snow. I'm not really seeing that, but it's possible, especially if you can get a solid burst at the end tomorrow morning. This really won't fall today into tonight. It'll be really for tomorrow morning. But, you know, you move over and you look at Massachusetts area, the southern New England area. A few inches of snow is possible in these hilly regions of western Mass. Western Mass, and then western Connecticut, 2 to 3 inches of snow is possible. Had someone ask for a town down here in the coastal regions of Connecticut, maybe an inch or 2 of snow is possible. And then, I mean, even, you know, you get a little bit further eastward into Mass, then you get into Rhode Island, maybe a dusting to maybe an inch or so of snow. But they have dropped somewhat for southern sections of Vermont. But, you know, this shield of snow could make it a little bit further north. I mean, but there's some pockets in some of these higher elevations in the southern sections of New York State that could get over a half a foot of snow also. Certainly possible. South central U.S., pretty quiet weather today. Lingering showers, maybe some storms in Louisiana. Maybe some more storms get going here in southwest Louisiana a little bit later today. Might drift into the bayou. New Orleans a little bit later this evening. Might affect some Friday evening activities, but they'll clear out. And then overnight tonight, pretty quiet weather. Not a whole lot going on at all for you folks. The north central U.S., lingering snow will quickly diminish. You might be dealing with it for Milwaukee and Chicago, Green Bay, you know, throughout the early afternoon hours. And then I think that it'll kind of, you know, lessen up as we get into this evening for sure. But here comes the next system on the heels, and here it comes. I mean, this is blizzard conditions developing overnight for North Dakota. Heavier snow too. This is going to be sometimes these like clippers that eventually will merge with the other piece of energy that will probably combine to make it for a nor'easter sometime early next week. Well, early next week. But these little clippers that kind of shoot down here, they can throw some heavy precipitation into the equation. So, I mean, it's snowing like crazy overnight tonight into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. This begins to move into Minnesota tomorrow morning, and we'll stop it right here. And, you know, if you notice, just like with any kind of just one-sided piece of energy from the northern stream, it's not like some long duration event, but there can be some intense moisture in here. Sometimes there's a lot of strong winds too. It's almost like a giant several hour long snow squall sometimes with these clippers. But, you know, this is going to move through, and that's why you got the blizzard warnings up. But from, you know, the duration of this event, and if I was to keep this going here, you know, this is snow moving into Minneapolis, sometime midday tomorrow. Heavy snow even showing up here in northern Iowa. And this eventually tomorrow afternoon starts to cover up the state of Wisconsin. And then might bring some more snow for you folks in Chicago later tomorrow evening. So we'll see what happens here. We'll talk about this more here in a second. But looking at how much snow can fall between now and the rest of this weekend. I mean, we're going for over a foot of snow in northern North Dakota. I mean, even eastern North Dakota are going for 8 to 12 inches of snow. The northern areas of Minnesota going for widespread anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of snow. You could get some lake-enhanced snow off the sections of kind of western Lake Superior, the western shores of Lake Superior here in northeast areas of Minnesota. Certain areas could get a foot and a half of snow from this. And then more snow on the way for Minneapolis. You guys, between the rest of this event that's falling and then this event that's coming, could get another half a foot of snow. Northern Iowa, some more accumulating snow for you folks. 2 to 3, 4 inches of snow is possible. Maybe a couple inches of snow as far south as Des Moines. So, areas of northeast Iowa, more snow on top of the snow you've already seen. I'm not exactly sure how much snow you got from this first system, but I reckon it was a decent amount. So, winds from this will really pick up. We're getting into about midday today. Strong winds will begin to enter the western Dakotas, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. And then as we're getting into this evening, they make it all the way to the central Dakotas. And then you got 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts entering, especially western North Dakota. And then they starts to cover up the entire state. And listen, winds are going to be howling tonight across the Dakotas. I mean, even Nebraska, but no snow is going to really be falling in Nebraska. But I mean, you got 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts in the Dakotas tonight. So make any preparations you guys need to if y'all do. And then as we're getting into Saturday morning, some stronger winds begin to enter Minnesota. Maybe you can get a blizzard warning gets issued somewhere in Minnesota. It's possible. But some strong winds begin to enter tomorrow morning, and then they last for most of the day. And, I think they will diminish by tomorrow evening. Okay, so not sustained. That's just gust. So temperatures today, chilly day across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, 30s. You get into the Great Lakes region, 30s and 20s. North central U.S. up here, northern plains, a lot of areas will stay below freezing. Northeast today, 40s. It's going to be kind of a day where before the precipitation moves in, for certain areas that could see snow later this evening into tonight, it'll probably get into the 40s. Mid-Atlantic, 40s, 50s. Southeast, 60s, maybe some 70s. You get south of this boundary of these rain, you get into the 80s in areas of Florida. 80s remaining in deep areas of the deep south, like the Gulf states, southern sections of the Gulf states. We'll get into the 70s and 80s. Yeah, so continuing to talk about the storm coming next week. Here it comes. I kind of just mentioned this on the Tropical Tidbits model run here, but we're getting into tomorrow afternoon. This heavier snow crosses the state of Minnesota. Maybe some lingering snow that will add additional snowfall accumulations tomorrow evening. But I mean, look down here. Look in northern Illinois. Some heavier snow tries to get even south of Chicago. So more accumulating snow is possible for Chicago. And remember, the HRRR model only goes out 48 hours. But it brings some pretty heavy snow into the northern half of Indiana. This does include Indianapolis in the middle of the night tomorrow night. And I mean, you got snow entering, down here near Dayton, Ohio, down here near Cincinnati. So, it's something to watch out for. Does this trend more kind of amplified moisture-wise? Because what I'm about to show you with the Euro, at least with what this could do in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, it doesn't show a lot of heavy precipitation. But the HRRR model, as far as it goes out to, which is around midnight Saturday night, it shows some pretty heavy snow entering the Midwest and the Ohio Valley states. So, but you look at the Euro, and yes, it does bring a period of light to moderate snow into Chicago as early as tomorrow evening. But, it gets into the Ohio Valley states here, Midwest, Great Lakes region, and it's just some light blue, which indicates this lighter snow. And then look down here in the southern Alps, you're mixing with some snow, cold enough, favorable time of the day. Here comes low pressure. To where you guys could possibly have a little bit of at least a wintering mix in the mountains of maybe Tennessee, especially North Carolina, Southwest VA, and West Virginia mountains. Okay, in fact, you look at the Euro and you keep this going. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with somebody, especially in those higher elevations, somehow maybe gets a winter storm warning out of this. But especially in the mountains of Virginia. But I think Boone will certainly be dealing with some winter weather. Banner Elk area will be dealing with some winter weather Sunday morning. It'll be a wintry scene out there. But, with low pressure cutting right across the Alps into North Carolina, in general, just not favorable. Not a lot of warm air. We're in mid-March. I think everybody's going to turn to rain. But some folks in these higher elevations up here, 4,000 feet up, 4,500 feet up here in the mountains of North Carolina, VA, could hang on to some, freezing rain for a while. So it's going to be a tricky setup here. But you go on and flip it to the northeast frame. Winter weather continues to fall overnight, Sunday night into Monday morning. And, based off the Euro, you look at Monday morning, and it's snowing in Washington, D.C. Now, it doesn't stay snow, but snowing at a pretty heavy rate. In northern VA, higher elevations of West Virginia, once again, it looks like rain for Pittsburgh and these, lower elevation areas of West Virginia. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to reel you guys in a storm. You guys have suffered right in this area with as far as winter weather. But Monday morning, here comes the storm. Starting off your week with a bang. Moisture beginning to enter the picture across New Jersey. And you keep this going, and look, we're getting deeper into Monday morning. You're still somehow maintaining snow in Washington, D.C., especially just north. But look, northern VA is getting some pretty heavy, wet snow. And then you switch to rain sometime about midday Monday, based off the Euro. Here comes our low pressure entering the picture. It's beginning to strengthen. Heavy snow's falling in areas of central and eastern PA, except southeast PA, where you're hanging on the rain. That includes you, Philadelphia. Okay, it's all rain here in most of New Jersey, except for northern areas of New Jersey. You got snow entering New York State. At this point, we're getting into Monday evening. You got a 985 millibar low pressure, but you're thinking, Mitch, that's way off the coastline. I don't know how that's going to do anything. Well, if you keep this going here, it gets yanked in and pulled in further and closer to the northeast coastline. So, you stop it right here. Late Monday evening, you got rain beginning to crash the snow for New York City. Long Island still rain, but then you flip it to the middle of the night, Monday night. All of this suddenly, even for Long Island, New York City, central and northern New Jersey, eastern PA, the valleys, the higher elevations of New York State, the state of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, you begin to switch to all snow and heavy snow. And this is the wee hours of the morning, Tuesday morning of the 14th. It is unloading snow based off the Euro with a 979 millibar low pressure just off the coastline, unloading snow from central New Jersey, still snowing like crazy in the Poconos, southern tier, southern regions of New York State, including Albany, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, snowing very hard in Boston, and this continues. Waking up Tuesday morning to an all-out nor'easter, blizzard conditions. You continue to keep this going. This really intensifies for areas like Boston. And then look at this low pressure. It's beginning to plow right into southeast Mass, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. And then it actually gets so close to Boston that it switches you guys to rain. But it's still snowing down here in New York City, Long Island, Rhode Island. So it's a weird system. And this low pressure, if it plows right into you, it's going to bring warm air to the surface. It's going to switch you to rain. Look up here in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. This is when it really cranks up for you guys Tuesday. Heavy snow getting pushed into you guys' estates. This is moving in and just a wild system. And then just more cold air gets entrenched into it. And you're still dealing with snow. Wednesday morning, it's still snowing. And New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, still snowing. Then Thursday morning, it finally heads on off after plaguing the Northeast for 3 days straight. GFS, what does it show? GFS wants to start off with snow here in the northern sections of North Carolina. Start out with snow here in Charlottesville, Roanoke, Virginia. We're getting into Sunday afternoon. Rain. It starts off as rain in Washington, D.C., and it keeps you guys at rain. But I mean, look at this. Look at the central and western sections of Virginia. You guys it's still a wintry mess for 6, 7 hours, 8 hours. So you got to watch out for VA because that's a northern state that could get into this. The GFS, as we're getting into Sunday night, late Sunday night, brings a corridor of snow into Pennsylvania. The areas of the southern tier of New York State starting to snow in northern New Jersey. Snow begins to move into New England. But look at the massive difference here, especially for you folks, Long Island, New York City, and southern sections, more southern sections of New Jersey that the Euro hit pretty good. You keep this going. Here comes the low pressure. First off, it's more substantial. It's much more weaker for Monday midday than what the Euro is showing for the same time frame. Okay, that's already a big sign. You know, Monday evening has 1,000 millibar low pressure right off the coast of southern New England. You look at Monday evening for the Euro, and let's back it all the way up here, and it has a 984 millibar low pressure. Okay, I mean, that's a big difference. I mean, yeah, the GFS is closer, but the Euro is much stronger. That's 16 millibars. That's a big difference. Okay, but the 1,000 millibar low pressure still bringing accumulating snow into New York State, Western Mass, Northwest Connecticut, and then sections of Vermont, New Hampshire. You keep this going here, this low pressure now begins to intensify. Heavy snow begins to fall in those same areas I just mentioned. Okay, and then it starts to snow even heavier. The wee hours in the morning, Tuesday morning, extreme snow begins to fall. Basically, it's still raining in Boston, Rhode Island. There's not even a lot of precipitation getting thrown back here to New York City, but it's still raining regardless. And the core of the heaviest snow is right into here. Okay, interior sections of New England. Low pressure just plows right into New England and then just brings the most snow for the southern sections of Maine and all those states I just mentioned a minute ago. Okay, but plows this low pressure right into here. A lot of snow begins to fall for the coastal regions of Maine. And then it crashes the snow finally at the tail end of the system for areas like Boston. But I mean, it's nothing substantial for the I-95 corridor as the European crushes the I-95 corridor. It's a massive difference, guys. Massive, difference. European, for you folks out here in the Great Lakes region, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, this is what's going on right now. This is what could be added to it with this system we just broke down. So an additional few to several inches of snow for the same areas that just got snow. But I think in general, this is not going to be a super high impact event for you folks. Voice is starting to crack. But I mean, watch for these snow totals to kind of increase for these areas. Okay, definitely could. And we're going to get more into these short range models for you folks for this system about to move through. So bear with me with that. We get up here to the northeast. This is the first system. This is the European ensemble for the second system. See that huge increase? Massive increase. You got about a 7-inch snowfall mean for Boston. A few inch snowfall mean for New York City. Same thing for Long Island. Connecticut. Remember, certain areas right into here certainly are still, that this is snow between both events from what you're seeing. Both events. But once you get over here, this is purely from the second event. So a pretty substantial signal for heavy accumulating snow over the next 4 to 5 days for the Northeast. Okay, even for West Virginia. Even a snowfall mean down here near Boone. Okay, western sections of Virginia, Maryland could pick up between now and the next 5 to 6 days several inches of snow. Someone would probably get a foot of snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia. So you look at the European ensemble, same kind of deal. First system, here comes the second system. All right, pretty big signal. I mean, it's what's wild to me. Listen to this, okay? Is the European ensemble slams Boston, right? Slams them, and I don't like to show operational runs because they're always overdone, and that's why I'm not showing it. But it slams Boston with well over a foot of snow. Well over a foot of snow. The European ensemble gives them about 7 inches of snow. The GFS for Boston gives them like a few inches of snow. In fact, we'll go on and look at this and see what it gives them. Okay, it gives them 2.4 inches of snow. Ignore all this. Ignore it. I know your eyes are like, wow, that's over 3 feet of snow for areas of Mass and Vermont and New Hampshire. But it gives them 2.4 inches of snow, right? But the GFS ensemble gives them more snow than the European ensemble. Gives them 8 to 9 inches of snow. So it's very interesting. That's why it's important to look at these ensemble runs. Okay. And I will tell you, okay, if we look at the OOZ run from overnight, and then we look at the 18Z run, okay, this is somewhat increased and nudged southward for areas like New York City. It hasn't really increased, but it's nudged southward. So who's going to win this, the GFS or the European? It's a big battle here, massive battle, okay, and it's tough. The high impact, high end ceiling of this is if something like the Euro happens. Yes, the GFS throws like 3 feet of snow, okay? But as far as a more widespread impact for more people to be impacted, the European, I think, is a big deal. So this is the first system. First off, I want to tell you, some high winds are likely. I think you got like gale warnings and sections of the coastal regions all the way from New Jersey, up to areas of the coastal regions of New England. There's going to be some very strong winds just off the coastline, even with this first system. And then this heads on off. Things chill out for a while, but not for long. And then we're getting into Monday morning. Winds begin to pick up in New York City, Long Island, southern New England. Winds begin to gust from 20, 25 miles per hour. And then this is when it can get pretty significant, especially for southern New England. We look at Tuesday morning, you're waking up to 50, 55 mile per hour wind gust in Boston, southeast Mass getting crushed. And, I'll let you guys stop the video if you need to, but very strong winds for New England, coastal regions of Maine. Very, very strong winds, a very windy scenario. And this would be a high-end wind event also for the southern Appalachian Mountains, and we'll talk about that as when we can fully focus on this, which we will be able to do, I believe, probably tonight into tomorrow morning. That's all I got, guys. I got to get out of here and head to work. God bless all y'all. Appreciate the support. Y'all have a great Friday.